Okay, so have you ever found yourself maybe in a meeting, a video call, or even just, drafting an important email and you just freeze for a second?
Hmm.
That little moment of uncertainty about how to sound clear, confident, and, well, professional.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really common feeling, I think.
It totally is. So today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, mastering business English.
Right. And our goal here really is to give you the practical tools, the understanding you need to handle pretty much any professional situation with a lot more confidence and impact.
Yeah, impact is a good word for it.
We've basically pulled together the key ideas from a really helpful guide, Mastering Business English. Speak clearly, sound professional. It's just packed with usable strategies, great phrases.
And the why here is so important, isn't it? Because this isn't just about learning, like, a list of words.
No, not at all.
This deep dive is really about building that essential business English toolkit, something that lets you excel, whether it's a big job interview or, talking to clients, negotiating.
Exactly. It's about making sure you're not just understood, but actually heard and respected.
Heard and respected. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with the term itself, business English. What exactly are we talking about here?
That's a really good starting point.
Because I think a lot of people hear that and immediately think, I don't know, corporate buzzwords or really formal, legal-sounding language. Is that it?
That is such a common thought, but no, not really. Business English, at its core, isn't about some secret vocabulary or complicated jargon. Fundamentally, it's about clear communication.
Clear? Okay.
And polite.
Yeah.
And effective.
Yeah.
Communication within that professional context, making sure your message lands properly, builds trust.
Rather than causing confusion.
Exactly. Building trust, not confusion.
That makes a lot more sense. And when you put it like that, it's everywhere, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
We're talking formal presentations, sure, but also just everyday emails, that quick chat you have waiting for coffee, even asking a colleague down the hall for some help.
Right. It's the sort of underlying language of how we get work done together professionally. And this is where some research from Cambridge University gets really interesting. They actually found that clarity and tone are much, much more important for effective business communication than just having a huge vocabulary.
More important than vocabulary. Wow.
Yeah. Get this. 74% of the professionals they surveyed identified tone as the single biggest challenge when communicating across different cultures in business.
74%, that's huge.
It really is. It tells you volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just what you're saying, it's how it comes across.
Yeah.
How it's perceived by the other person.
That stat really drives it home. It's less about showing off words and more about, like you said, perception and building that connection. So, okay, if tone is that critical, how does that change how we should approach learning and using business English?
Well, it reinforces that we need to focus on the practical stuff. Real-world phrases, language for specific situations. We're not drilling abstract grammar rules today.
Right, no textbook exercises.
Exactly. The aim is to give you language you can use, like tomorrow. Language that helps you sound professional, respectful, clear. Making those small shifts that actually make a big difference in how your message is received.
Okay, so that brings us perfectly to this idea of a toolkit filled with essential professional phrases.
Yes.
Because it sounds like, in business English, knowing the right phrase for the right moment isn't just about manners. It's actually a strategic tool.
It absolutely is. Think about disagreeing in a meeting.
Okay, yeah. Tricky one.
Right. If you just jump in with, I don't agree, it can easily sound confrontational or dismissive, even if you don't mean it that way.
Yeah, it can shut things down.
It can. But instead, imagine using phrases like, okay, I see your point, but I wonder if we could consider another perspective. Or maybe, I understand where you're coming from. However, I do have a couple of reservations about that approach.
Ah, okay. So it's polite, but you're still clearly stating your position.
Precisely. It changes the whole dynamic, from a potential argument to more of a collaborative discussion. Finding common ground.
That's a really useful distinction. Okay, what about another common scenario? You're asked something, maybe put on the spot, and you just don't have the answer right then and there. How do you handle that smoothly?
The classic. Well, a go-to phrase is definitely, let me get back to you on that.
Simple but effective.
It really is. It does a few things at once, buys you time, shows you heard the question, and it sounds miles better than just saying, no, or having that awkward silence.
Definitely avoids the awkward silence.
And similarly, Think about ending a conversation, like a business call or an email, instead of just stopping abruptly.
Which can feel a bit rude sometimes.
It can. A simple, professional closing like, please let me know if you have any further questions, or I look forward to hearing from you, leaves things on a positive, open note.
Yeah, keeps the door open. And one I use all the time, especially if I'm juggling a few things or working with a team, is something like, just wanted to keep you in the loop. Or just a quick update to keep you in the loop.
Oh, that's a great one. Super useful for status updates. Concise, collaborative, very efficient. And look, these phrases, they might seem like small things, just pleasantries maybe, but they're really not empty words. They genuinely function as what you might call soft power tools.
Soft power tools, I like that.
They help you sound confident in what you're saying, but also respectful of the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
And that, in turn, really influences how people receive your ideas and how they respond back to you.
Right. It's about building bridges, like you said earlier, not just throwing information out there.
Exactly. Building those bridges.
You know, that idea of soft power and influencing how things are received? It makes me think about something else we touched on. It's not just what you say. Critically, it's how you say it. The tone, the cultural context hiding behind the words. How big a deal is that, really, in business communication?
Oh, it's immense.
Yeah.
Sometimes the how can completely overshadow the what. You see, in many Western cultures, think the U.S., the U.K., maybe there's generally a value placed on communication that's pretty direct, but still polite.
Get to the point, but nicely?
Kind of, yeah. There's an expectation of efficiency, getting things done.
Yeah.
But the politeness is the wrapper around the directness. It's direct, hopefully not rude.
Oh, okay. And I guess that's quite different from other places around the world.
Oh, absolutely. If you look more broadly, take many Asian cultures, for example. Communication there often tends to be more indirect.
Why is that?
Well, often the main goal is about maintaining harmony within the group, preserving face for everyone involved, avoiding any kind of direct conflict or confrontation.
So misunderstandings could easily happen if you're not aware of those different styles.
Easily. It's not that people are being intentionally vague. It's more that the relationship, the social harmony, is often valued just as highly, sometimes even more highly, than pure, blunt directness. You have to read between the lines sometimes.
That leads perfectly into that story, the example of Emily at her first business meeting in London.
Ah, yes, the Emily story.
She walks in trying to be maybe relatable or casual and says something like, oh, I hope this meeting doesn't take too long because I'm really tired today.
Oof, yeah.
Now, to her, maybe that just felt honest, sharing how she felt. But in that context,
Yeah.
a big mistake. Right?
Oh, a huge mistake in that context. Because what that signals, especially maybe to a British professional ear, is a lack of engagement.
Yeah.
Maybe even comes across as a bit lazy or like she doesn't want to be there.
Right. Now, the impression you want to make.
Definitely not. What she should have aimed for, to sound prepared and professional, was something more like, I'm really looking forward to a productive discussion today. See the difference?
Yeah, completely different vibe.
Totally. One says, I want this to be over. The other says, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm invested. It just shows so clearly how one little phrase can make you sound disengaged, while another makes you sound professional and eager.
It really slams home the point that understanding tone, understanding those cultural nuances, it's just as important as knowing the vocabulary, maybe even more so sometimes.
Absolutely. That's what we mean by smart business English. It's not just words. It's inherently culturally aware. It's about, reading the room.
Even if the room is virtual these days.
Exactly. Reading the situation and knowing how your words are likely to actually land with the people listening.
Okay, so we've talked about what business English is. We've looked at some really powerful phrases for that toolkit. But now the practical part. How can you, listening right now, take all this and actually start building this fluency day to day? What are the concrete steps?
Right, the actionable stuff. We want this to be immediately useful. Okay, so one really good method is to use business English apps or even just watch short clips from business shows.
Like Shark Tank or The Apprentice, stuff like that.
Exactly like that. Because you get exposed to natural language, practical stuff in context. You hear the pacing, the intonation.
Not just reading words on a page.
Precisely. Another great tip, really powerful. Daily writing practice. Try just writing a quick 3-sentence business email to yourself every day.
Oh, like simulating a real work task.
Yeah. Or maybe, for getting broader exposure, get active on LinkedIn. Join groups, comment on professional posts in English. It's fairly low pressure, but you see a lot of real-world usage.
That's a good idea. And something I always recommend, role-playing. I know it can feel a little silly at first.
It really can.
But don't just read these phrases silently. You have to say them out loud. Practice giving a mini presentation to your mirror, or introducing yourself for a job interview, or even just practicing how you'd handle a tricky client call.
Yes. Speak them out loud. It actually helps lock them into your muscle memory. It builds real confidence for when you need them.
Because the more you kind of simulate those real business situations, even in a low-stakes way,
The faster you're going to improve, right? And crucially, the more confident you'll actually feel when those situations pop up for real.
Absolutely. It stops being just theory in your head and becomes something you can actually do. Practical application.
Makes sense.
So, as we kind of start to wrap up this deep dive today, let's just quickly hit the main takeaways again.
Good idea.
Okay, first, we've established that business English is really defined by clarity, by tone, and using the right language for the situation. It's way more than just fancy words. It's about truly effective communication.
Right. Clarity, tone, situation. Got it.
Second, using those specific professional phrases we talked about, like, let me get back to you, or I see your point, but they're incredibly valuable for building rapport and managing how you're perceived.
Those soft power tools.
Exactly. Third, never underestimate the importance of your tone and being aware of cultural nuances. That how can be critical.
Yeah, the Emily example really highlighted that. And finally, consistent daily practice works. Especially things like real-life role-playing, speaking out loud, and quick writing exercises. That's what really speeds up your fluency and your confidence.
Okay, so now it's over to you, the listener. Here's the challenge. We want you to immediately try and apply something you've heard today.
Make it real.
Think about just one phrase that stuck with you from our chat. Maybe it was just to keep you in the loop, or perhaps, I'd like to offer another perspective. Just pick one.
Just one to start.
And then commit to using it sometime in the next week. Use it in an actual email, or say it in a meeting, or even just try it out in a conversation with a colleague. Ask yourself, what difference could making that one seemingly small shift in your language actually make for you? That's your first step. That's how you start making these ideas truly your own and begin transforming your professional communication.